Morning, everybody. My name's Anna, and I'm a compulsive overeater. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the Cambridge Grey Sheet. I write those meals down. I commit them to my loving sponsor. I don't eat anything in between, no matter what. And abstinence is the most important thing in my life. And my abstinence date is the 6th of February 2023. So it was last week that I celebrated my first year of abstinence. And I couldn't have done it without any of you, but also with my higher power and God. I really mean that here, without any of you. This is my home group. It's where I do service. It's where I first walked in person, but it's also the meeting I come to most regularly, and you're the faces I see week in, week out. Yeah, home group's just massively important to me. So yeah, very grateful. And that's really amazing to say that today, just for today, that I am abstinent and I am grateful. My life a year ago and the 43 years preceding that was all about the food in a completely different way. I was obsessed, addicted, and I still am, but I'm in recovery, thank God. But I was born an addict. I grew up, as I hear often in these rooms, I grew up in a household of addicts. My mother is an alcoholic and has never gone into recovery. And my father is also, he's an addict of drugs. And we also had lots of friends and around the house growing up. Lots of drugs around us. I have an older brother, and we often talk about that and think about what life was like. But I also know that my life for my parents when they were younger wasn't easy either. And I've gone back in my family history. And my grandmother, my nan, she grew up in a children's home and was force-fed, was fed things 3-4 days later. If she hadn't eaten them, she was starved. And I often wonder I often believe addiction travels through the generations. And I wonder whether my food addiction stems from her. And I also know that her mother, so my great grandmother, was an incredibly poorly woman, very, very poorly alcoholic, again, who never went into recovery, but was actually put into an asylum because she did a horrific crime. Back in the 1800s, and that's why my nan grew up in a children's home. So there's family history, but I think what I love about this program is that I look at my path and my side of the street. And so I came out of the womb an addict, absolutely, and food was my obsession ever since I can remember. Even on a bodily level, I just think I always felt hungry. I think I felt emotionally hungry, but food was the soothing thing. I used to steal food as much as I could possibly get. I was having a conversation with my mum about that the other day, and she was deeply concerned. I think she was terrified what to do. What she did do is she took me to Weight Watchers when I was 14. She was really trying to help. She did it with me. I still was starving. I still secretly ate. What else did I do? I just didn't stop. I just ate and ate and ate. And then when I left home, because I'd been on Weight Watchers, the images of me that I found, I'm quite a normal size. But I left home and suddenly it went terribly, terribly wrong for the next 20 years. Because I had my own income, I was beholden to no one, and I just ate. And I also drank, but I do really believe that the reason I can't drink is because of the sugar. I'm an awful drunk, but I fundamentally believe that sugar, grains, and carbs I just am allergic to them, and I want more. They don't fill me up. So interestingly, I chose to work in a fast food restaurant for 5-6 years in my 20s. where I got free food and I helped myself from the age of, as soon as I went to university. I think I found that job in about 6 months. I stayed there till I was 25. And I ate and ate, and I remember making desserts for the customers, and I'd shove as much as I could when I was making the dessert into my mouth whilst I was making their dessert. Then I'd take the desserts out. Or the chefs in the kitchen would ask me what I wanted for lunch. Well, I'd have the oiliest, biggest, greasiest thing I could find. Takeaways, especially in London.
10 more minutes.
Thank you, Paul. Horrific. Whoever invented Deliveroo knew I existed, because I wouldn't even stop at one Deliveroo one evening. I would then deliver from another. I'm very grateful. I get emotional at this. I'm going on a date day today with my lovely husband. We met when I was 29. I'd managed to get back to a decent-ish size. But we indulged ourselves in the food for years as well. Him and I could do that together. It was okay because we loved each other, so we fed each other. That's been a huge journey for me over the last year and continues to be, because that's how we related. But yeah, Deliveroo was made for him and I. What else did I want to say about what it was like? I mean, it was just awful. And the reason I ate was, I believe, I wanted to anaesthetize myself. I think I actually wanted to be dead. I didn't want to be alive because there were feelings I was feeling that were unbearable. So I'd eat, and I'd eat and eat and eat for days and days so that I was dead. I was comatose. I was anaesthetized on a surgical table, and I wanted a surgeon to remove the feelings of anger, rage, sadness, sometimes excitement, the whole lot of them. It was unbearable for me to feel my feelings. And so I ate them, and because it anaesthetized me. And I got to a point, this time last year, where I wasn't even thinking or feeling anything, I don't think. And just to share with you, this isn't me last year, but I think this is the photo I can find of me at my biggest. At my biggest, I was 23.5 stone. Don't know if you can all see that. That is me. I found it where I used to work. So yeah, 23.5 stone was my biggest. And someone pointed out to me, I may look happy, but I look happy in all my photos. I was crying inside. I was desperately unhappy. It was all a facade. And so this time last year, a lot in my life had changed. I did a big career change. My husband and I had just bought our first flat. And it was 3 weeks into my big career change. And unbeknownst to me, I'd known a fellow GreySheeter for about a year. They'd never mentioned anything to me, but they said they'd spied me from afar and were biding their time. And we got chatting one day, and they asked me about my relationship with food. And they began to tell me about GreySheet and their journey in food recovery. And they met me for a coffee in person the following week, and they explained their story for about an hour, and I bawled my eyes out. I cry a lot. I believe it's better out than in. And they then guided me into online GreySheet meetings, and I saw all of your lovely faces, and I didn't speak, and I cried and cried and thought none of you had noticed me, but you'd all seen me, and we're all reaching out on the chat, and I was like, who are these strange people? They're being so friendly. And you all held me and welcomed me with open arms. And I heard my story time and time again. It was the first time I'd ever heard anyone else being taken to Weight Watchers at 14. Now I hear it all the time. And I was like, oh, I found oh, wow, this is amazing. And I then I'll never forget the day a year ago I walked in, this same person walked me into my first in-person meeting, and I'm so grateful for this group and the fact that we do get to have in-person meetings, and we get to have the London Roundup. Don't forget it, May 4th and 5th. And I remember sat in that room in person for the first time, and it being so overwhelming. Because everyone didn't look like me, and I sat there in disbelief because I'd just seen people's faces online, and so I hadn't quite got the measure of people's bodies. And I sat in that room. Everyone after that meeting came up to me and showed me pictures of themselves, and I finally got it, and I saw the miracle of Grey Sheet. But it wasn't just about the physical appearance. I must say that I have lost, from my heaviest, I've lost over 10 stone now, and I live in a body like no other. But what I'm realizing a year in, and I hear other GreySheeters talk about this, is it's not about that for me anymore. And interestingly, my mother asked me about it the other day. So she can be very, it comes from a caring place, but she can be quite invasive and ask about where I'm at on my weight. And I kindly said to her, as kindly as I could, I don't look at it like that anymore, Mum. This is how I eat, and this is a way, which another GreySheeter taught me, this is a way I look after myself in no other way I have before. And this, I pray, will be for, thank you, Paul. This will be for the rest of my life. And I think I was reflecting this morning on what I wanted to say. Sometimes I can over prepare, and I decided not to. I remember being sat a year ago in the in-person meeting, and at the end of the meeting, in this meeting, we read the freedoms. They are the most beautiful words I've ever heard. They took my breath away, and I actually had to pass the reading over to someone else because I couldn't finish them. I was asked to read them at that meeting. And still today, whenever I hear any of you read them, they are so true. They give things that I live now. I'm just a bit speechless about it. It's things like I pray and meditate every day now. I speak to 3, often more, people every day about the food, sometimes not about the food, from across the world who understand me and I understand them. I get to sponsor, and I love doing that, to show people, other people, the way I was shown. I get to be sponsored. People give up their time. I think it's a miracle. I get to think. I think I get to think my own thoughts. It's quite new to me, but I always used to think what other people thought. Whatever you thought, I'd agree with. I compose texts now, or my emails at work, or things I say. I can feel myself trying things of what do I actually think. It's made me. I know I'm 1,000% better at my job. I just know I am. I can feel it. And I have freedom. I have freedom, and I have peace. And there is nothing like Grey Sheet. And I pray that one day at a time I will be with you all. But I can't know. I haven't had any massive major life events happen to me yet. I haven't lost my parents. They are still here. I gratefully still have time to repair some things with them. On my side, I have time. My husband is still here. I am still relatively young, I think. But I did lose some things. I decided to, I think because of my disease, my addiction, I decided to not have children. And I've had to grieve for that. I think being in a body that I didn't understand and was morbidly obese and dying, the idea of carrying children was unbearable for me. And very recently that's come up for me. And I do go to my own therapy just very, very regularly. She's also saved my life. And I'm grieving for that at the moment. That's okay. Children come to us in different ways, and I adore children. I worked with children for 25 years, and some of them drove me nuts. And I still see some of them, but that's a loss. We make choices, but my addiction, my fundamental addiction is sugar, grains, and carbs. And I will have to accept things that I chose. But God, I do believe in a God now. And I'm really enjoying that journey.
One more minute.
Thank you, Paul. Of listening to a higher power. And only yesterday, I was really confused yesterday, and I did a little prayer and I heard something back. And it just held me for the day. It was one of the first times that's happened for me. I could go on and on. The gifts of Grey Sheet. It's not easy. It's not every day I feel like this, in peace, but just for today, I do. Who knows what'll happen in 2 hours? And with that, I did want to, the other thing that came to me this morning, I read this quote the other day that I thought was absolutely beautiful. It's by Rainer Maria Reich. And it said, "Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final." And with that, I don't eat no matter what. Thank you.